There is an intelligence watching your thoughts, and it doesn't come from your mind. It's there before doubt, before choice, even before emotion appears. It doesn't judge, it doesn't react, it doesn't interfere, it simply observes. But when you become still, it guides you, not with words, but with a clarity that cuts through your inner chaos. Have you ever felt that something inside you is trying to lead the way, even when everything feels confusing, as if there's a quiet presence guiding you from within, while the world outside is falling apart? That force is not a product of your imagination, and it doesn't come from outside. It's real, silent, and it lives right at the center of your awareness. The problem is, almost no one has learned how to listen to it. We live surrounded by voices, both external and internal, shouting all the time. But the only voice that truly knows your path is the one nobody teaches you how to hear. In this video, you'll discover what the Urantia book reveals about this intelligence. It's not a metaphor, it's not a philosophical idea. It's a fragment of the mind of God, placed inside you for one sacred purpose: to guide your soul back to the source. Maybe you've never heard this name before, but it has known you since your very first breath. It silently watches every thought, every choice, every doubt. And even when you ignore it, it stays, waiting for the right moment. This presence is not part of your ego. It wasn't born from your personality. It has no story, but it knows your soul's script with perfect clarity. The Urantia book gave a name to this divine intelligence, Thought Adjuster. A pure fragment of the mind of God, placed in you with a sacred mission, to lead your awareness back to its eternal origin. This is not a metaphor. It's not a philosophical concept. It's a vibrational reality that works in silence, trying to guide your path, even in the middle of mental chaos. Mystics around the world have sensed this same presence. Hermes spoke of the immortal spark. Plotinus described the nous as the emanation of the supreme mind. The Vedic tradition called it the Atman, the divine self that lives at the center of our being. But Urantia went further. It described this being with detail, its function and its destiny. And most amazing of all, it depends on your cooperation to fully express itself. You can go on living guided by instincts, impulses, and inherited beliefs. Or you can begin to hear the one voice that truly knows who you came here to become. In this video, you'll learn how to access this inner field, how to tell this intelligence apart from the ego, and how to cooperate with it to align your vibration with the divine design of reality. That's real transformation, not doing everything differently, but doing everything with higher awareness. The idea that there's a divine intelligence within human beings is not new, but it has always been wrapped in symbols, metaphors, and mysteries. The ancients knew this presence couldn't be explained rationally. It had to be lived, felt from within, recognized as part of the self. Hermes Trismegistus spoke of this in the Emerald Tablets, saying that the all is in all, and all is in the all. To him, the human mind was like a mirror reflecting in miniature the universal mind, and by polishing that inner mirror, the being would become one with the divine. Plotinus, in the 3rd century, wrote about the nous, the supreme mind, as the first emanation from the source. According to him, this mind wasn't some distant entity, but something that could be accessed within once a person transcended the senses and returned to their essence. He described this process as the return to the One, a journey of vibrational ascent that began with inner listening. In India, the Vedic rishis taught that the Atman, the eternal inner self, was identical to Brahman, the Absolute. Human beings didn't need to find God outside of themselves, because he was already there as pure consciousness, hidden beneath the layers of ego and illusion. The supreme realization on this path was to recognize that the inner observer was divinity itself. The Urantia book follows the same lineage of ancient wisdom, but with a bold twist. It states that the thought adjuster is not merely a projection of the divine mind. It is the mind of God itself, fragmented and placed within the human being. This idea breaks away from centuries of doctrine that placed the divine in an external, distant, and hierarchical realm. According to Urantia, every incarnated soul carries within it an absolute core of perfection, a presence that knows the way back to the source because it comes directly from it, and this presence is active at all times, even when ignored. The central teaching here is simple, yet profound. God doesn't speak through dogmas or books. He whispers from within, as a vibrational certainty that needs no explanation. And every tradition that dared to look inward eventually came to the same realization. The divine doesn't need to be reached, it needs to be recognized. What we often call intuition might be far more than just a gut feeling. Recent research shows that there's a specific neurological pattern that activates in deep silence, contemplative meditation, and heartfelt prayer. This isn't superstition, it's brain architecture in action. Neuroscientist Andrew Newberg mapped these experiences in advanced practitioners from various spiritual traditions. The results revealed something intriguing. During moments of deep inner connection, activity in the parietal lobe, the area responsible for maintaining the sense of separation between self and other, decreases significantly. At the same time, regions linked to decision-making, direction, and ethical awareness light up with intensity. It's as if the brain quiets the ego to make room for a higher form of guidance. This discovery aligns perfectly with what the Urantia book describes as the action of the thought adjuster, a divine intelligence that works through refined intuition, an inclination toward goodness, and subtle impulses that don't come from ordinary reasoning. It doesn't shout, but it can radically shift the direction of a life. Carl Jung also tapped into this dynamic when he described the process of individuation, the journey through which a person, by listening to the self, begins to align with a consciousness that transcends the ego. It's not about imagining a spiritual force, it's about making contact with something that's already present, waiting to be acknowledged. Science is beginning to confirm what ancient traditions have long claimed under different names. There is a silent intelligence within you, and it shows itself when your vibration aligns with the field of truth. Listening to the thought adjuster doesn't begin with effort, it begins with tuning in. It's not about forcing the mind to understand, but about adjusting your inner field until it becomes receptive. Like a frequency that's always been in the air, but too much noise has blocked it out. Step 1. Quiet the noise centers before you can hear. You need to make space. Compulsive thoughts, built-up tension, unresolved emotions. All of these create interference. Silencing doesn't mean erasing, it means observing without feeding. That's why you should practice at least 5 minutes of total stillness each day. Not to control the mind, but to notice where it loses balance. It's in that space between one thought and the next that the signal starts to emerge. Step 2. Recognize the tone of the subtle voice the ego speaks loudly, quickly, and with urgency. Divine intelligence expresses itself differently. It doesn't try to convince or justify. It simply resonates with coherence. When you sense a quiet answer that brings peace, even if it doesn't make immediate sense, pay attention. That feeling of calm alignment is one of the clearest signs of the adjuster. In moments of decision, instead of chasing answers, Feel which direction brings expansion. You don't need to fully understand. You just need to perceive with presence. Step 3. Create a field of inner cooperation. The thought adjuster does not impose itself. It responds to your vibrational openness. When your actions reflect integrity, stillness, and inner truth, this field grows stronger. It's not about being perfect. It's about acting in a way that aligns with what your soul knows to be right. Cooperation begins when, in the face of a choice, you pause and feel which option brings more expansion, more lightness, and more truth. These small, conscious decisions become access codes to an intelligence that operates beyond ordinary logic. It's as if each aligned action says, "I'm listening, keep guiding." Step 4. Maintain the frequency of alignment. Spiritual listening doesn't happen in a single moment. It's the result of a continuous state of coherence. That means being mindful of the spaces you enter, the conversations you engage in, the thoughts you allow to repeat. Your inner field is sensitive, and its clarity depends on daily vibrational hygiene. Recognize what drains your energy patterns, distractions, excesses, and start choosing what's simpler, cleaner. The adjuster's voice doesn't compete with noise. It waits for you to create the space where it can be clearly felt. Step 5. Respond with aligned action. Hearing the adjuster is only the beginning. True transformation happens when you act in resonance with what you sensed in silence. Many times, this inner voice will point toward paths that challenge your ego, break old patterns, and require vibrational courage. But that's when the connection deepens. When you respond, not with hesitation, but with movement. Each small, aligned action reactivates the circuit between your awareness and the divine within. And the more this flow strengthens, the clearer the communication becomes. This is not a reward system, it's a refinement process. Don't expect instant miracles. Watch for subtle signs. Peace where there used to be anxiety. Direction where there was once confusion. Encounters that feel guided by something greater. These synchronicities reveal that the adjuster is present and active. Life begins to reorganize itself when you step out of reaction mode and into the vibration of applied listening. In the end, it's not about mastering a technique, it's about nurturing a sacred relationship, a silent bond with the highest part of your being, the part that was never lost, only forgotten in the noise of the world. Her name was Amara. She was in her early 30s, sharp-minded, with many courses, many books, and a persistent feeling of always being on the edge of something that never quite arrived. On the outside, everything seemed in place. But inside, a quiet restlessness was eating away at her days. It wasn't sadness, it was absence, as if something essential was trying to surface, but she had never learned how to listen. One ordinary night, after another failed attempt at guided meditation, Amara simply gave up. She turned off the music, closed her eyes, and sat in silence. But this time, with no desire to reach anything, no effort. And it was there, in that space between wanting and letting go, that something different happened. She didn't hear a voice. She didn't see an image. But a very clear sensation filled her inner space, as if something was watching her from within. Not with judgment, not with urgency. Just a calm presence, one that knew exactly who she was beneath all the roles she had played. In the days that followed, she began paying more attention to these subtle impulses. Small decisions, once made on autopilot, were now felt before they were thought. She started saying no with more ease. She began choosing paths that felt simpler but truer. And almost imperceptibly, life began to reconfigure itself. Amara realized she didn't need to search for God in books or gurus. She only needed to create enough silence to hear the part of God that already lived within her. The greatest obstacle to accessing the thought adjuster isn't a lack of faith, it's too much noise. And that noise doesn't just come from the outside world. It comes from the expectation that the answer must be clear, audible, and logical. Many people give up before they even begin, expecting spectacular signs and ignoring the simplest whispers. The mind wants certainty. The ego demands guarantees. But the adjuster doesn't speak that language. It communicates through vibrational resonance, through sensations of coherence that arise before any thought. The conflict begins when you try to receive divine guidance through the same mental filters that created the confusion. It's like trying to tune in to a high frequency with a misaligned antenna. The solution is to shift from expectation to real presence. Instead of seeking a message, cultivate the state where it can be perceived. Let yourself sit in silence without expecting anything. It's in that space of no expectation that perception begins to shift. You won't hear an answer, you'll simply know what needs to be done. And that knowing won't come from your mind, but from the part of you that has always been connected to the source. Transmuting noise is the first act of cooperation with the divine within, and it's also the first true step in the art of listening to what can only be felt. Within you is a presence that doesn't need to be taught, it only needs to be recognized. It's not about believing or fully understanding. It's about allowing the silent consciousness that lives within you to finally lead your journey. The thought adjuster is not a spiritual theory, it's a vibrational reality, a living extension of the mind of God, placed within you with the mission to guide your soul back to its origin. When you become still, it speaks. When you act with coherence, it reveals itself. When you trust what you feel deeply, even if you can't explain it, it shines through. Transformation doesn't require complex rituals or ready-made formulas. It begins with the decision to stop following the noise and start following what is true, even if subtle. This video wasn't made to convince you of anything. It was made to remind you of what, deep down, you already know. You've never been alone. The wisdom of Plotinus echoes this same truth. Return to yourself, for truth dwells within the human being. You don't need to seek light in distant places. The light was already placed inside you. What's missing is not divine presence, it's listening. And when that listening opens, everything changes, because you finally begin to walk guided by the highest part of yourself. The divine doesn't shout, but when you hear it, it transforms. If this message resonated with something true inside you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Write in the comments the mantra phrase, "I choose to listen to the divine that lives within me." Share this video with someone you feel needs to remember their connection to the source. And if you want to go even deeper, click the screen to watch another transformative video from our journey. The wisdom that guides you is already within. It just needs silence to awaken.